Hi guys, Mehnush here from Ross IELTS Academy. I'm here today to talk to you about the latest IELTS speaking questions, the last week's. It is always a good idea to practice different questions and topics before the test. However, you don't need to worry. When we talk to our candidates, many of them tell us that their main concern in speaking is that they don't have a very wide range of vocabulary. Tell you what, it's fine. Not everyone has got the vocabulary to talk about all the familiar and unfamiliar topics. Besides, there is no need to have information about everything so that you can answer all the questions. You need strategies. Okay guys, what we want to do today is to take a look at some of the latest IELTS speaking questions part by part, and I will give you my answers to them. Then I will explain why I gave those answers, analyzing them based on IELTS criteria. Okay, let's get started. Okay guys, in this video we want to take a look at some of the questions and answers in the third part of IELTS speaking, the latest questions. And if you have watched the previous video, which was about a cue card and you had to describe the tall building that you like or dislike, then you already know that the questions here in this part are related to that cue card. So it's something about the buildings and the construction and architecture. Now we have 3 questions here. Let's take a look at the questions first. The first one says, how challenging do you think designing an architectural building is? The second question says, how do people feel about building their own house? The third one says, how much influence does climate have on the construction of tall buildings globally? Before I give you my own answers to these questions, you should take your time, think of your own ideas. If you want to write something down, you want to use some vocabulary collocations. So take your time, think of your own ideas, and then come back to me so that I can give you my own answer. Did you come up with any ideas? Now, let's see how we can answer these questions. The first one says, how challenging do you think designing an architectural building is? This is my answer. It definitely has to be a complicated job. I say that because my sister has been working as an architect for several years, and I have seen how difficult it is at times. I believe that besides the education and knowledge, you need to be intelligent in order to design a building, as it will be people's accommodation in the future, and that is such a big responsibility. The second question says, how do people feel about building their own house? And this is my answer. It depends on what people and what nationality we are talking about. I generally think that people have a good feeling about making themselves a house, as this way they decide what design they want to have in details. Besides, it can give them the chance to spend some quality time with their siblings, kids, parents, or other family members while building the house. However, some people can find it hard and would prefer to leave it to a designer or an architect. And now the third question. How much influence does climate have on the construction of tall buildings globally? This is the answer. I don't really have such kind of information, but I think no matter where in the world a tall building is being constructed, a rainy or snowy weather can slow down the construction process. On the other hand, if the weather gets too hot or humid, the workers may get exhausted, and that will negatively impact their efficiency at work. Now let's see what I have used in my answers based on IELTS criteria. First, we look at the collocations and vocabulary I have used, which are marked in red. In the first one, in the first answer, I used the word accommodation, which means where you live, your house, the apartment, your flat. In the second one, it can give them the chance to. It can provide them with the opportunity to do something. Quality time, it means the time that you spend with your friends or family to strengthen your relationship. Siblings, which means sister or brother. Parents, your mother and father. And family members, other family members. And leave it to a designer. You leave something to somebody. It means you want them, you ask them to do it for you. In the third one, I used some terms related to weather. For example, rainy weather, snowy weather. It can slow down the construction process. Hot or humid, other terms about the weather. Get exhausted, it means to get very tired. Efficiency at work, it means to be efficient at work, to work well. As you can see, I have also tried to use some synonyms, so you should always make sure not to repeat what you hear in the question. What the examiner says, what the examiner asks you, you should use some direct synonyms to paraphrase the question. An example of which is in the first one, the first question. For example, I say, how challenging do you think designing an architectural building is? And the answer is, it definitely has to be a complicated job. So instead of challenging, I use the word complicated job. Or again, difficult. So some different words, challenging, complicated, difficult, hard. Don't repeat the exact same word again and again. Try to use some synonyms. Other than that, it is very important to use some fillers and boosters in your answers. For example, the ones marked in purple. In the first answer, I said, I say that because. So instead of just saying because, I say that because. I believe that. Or in the second one, as it was something that I just needed to think of because I just needed some time to analyze my answer. So I started my answer like this. The question was, how do people feel about building their own house? And I said, it depends on what people and what nationality we are talking about. I generally think that, and I kept giving my answer. And the third one, I started my answer using another booster. Like the question was, how much influence does climate have on the construction of tall buildings globally? And I said, I don't really have such kind of information, but I think. So even if you have no information about something, you should say something, right? You should keep talking, just like what I did here. I don't have information, but generally I think, okay, if the weather is rainy, then the construction process may be slowed down. This is something that everybody knows. So you don't need to be an expert. You don't need to have much information about all the different topics or many different collocations on mind or the vocabulary. You just need to know how to apply the strategies. One of them is just like this. You say, I don't know. I don't have information, but the only thing I know is this. Or you go off the topic, you talk about something or a topic close to that one, and then at the end you go back to the question again, right? So this is what you should do. And the last thing, how you use the connectives and discourse markers. For example, in the first answer, I used besides or at times to talk about the order of the event or the frequency of my action actually. In order to or to. In the second answer, as, which means because. Besides, which means moreover or and. While, when you want to talk about the two actions that are happening at the same time. For example, I was studying while she was cooking. Also, you can use the word while to show contrast. It's another use of it. However, which means but. Or the last one, on the other hand. On one hand, on the other hand. So you should make sure to do the same thing, and it is always important to use complex grammatical structures. By using good connectives, you can make some complex structures. Other than that, you can use relative clauses, compound sentences, subordinate clauses, or conditional sentences because it is important to use a range of complex structures. So try to do the things that we did together today. Very well, guys. Just like what we did today, you can look for speaking questions, give your own answers to them, record yourself, and then analyze your answers. If you want to be evaluated by us, book an online speaking mock test with our examiners. It will make a big difference, trust me. In the next videos, we will work on the next parts. I wish you best of luck and see you very soon.